today. I know this has been a lot this week, and it's really good that we can all be together is number one, which is not always easy right now. Beverly and I had a Zoom call on Wednesday for planning. It was pretty ugly, I must say. We were pretty rough. But I think your show, Entangled here, is a great representation really of what we're all feeling and what we're talking about today in your life as a painter. So I'm going to start with the nuts and bolts because you have a very healthy CV. You've done a lot, and it's impressive. So I feel it's important, instead of me trying to memorize this and go through it, I'm going to read it to you. And then Beverly's going to go through, we're going to have a little slideshow and sort of go through her career as a painter, her life, and then we'll open it up for any questions afterwards. And I'll probably have some questions too in between. Beverly McIver was born in 1962 in segregated Greensboro, North Carolina. She was raised by her single mother, who worked tirelessly as a domestic worker to support Beverly and her two sisters, one of which, Renee, has developmental disabilities. Despite these challenges, McIver studied painting, earning a BA in painting and drawing from North Carolina Central University and an MFA in painting and drawing from Penn State University, where she studied under Richard Mayhew and Faith Ringgold. With breathtaking honesty and virtuoso painting, Beverly's works tackle difficult themes about the human condition, such as depression, racism, poverty, disability, and death, finding dignity in all of these representations. In 2022, the Scottsdale Museum of Art organized a museum survey curated by Kim Bogany that traveled to the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and to the Gibbs Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. This exhibition was accompanied by a 132-page hardcover catalog with essays by Michelle Wallace, a leading Black feminist scholar and daughter of Beverly's graduate school mentor, Faith Ringgold, and distinguished professor of American art history at Duke University, Richard J. Powell. Beverly is the subject in HBO's Raising Renee, a feature-length documentary film by Academy Award-nominated and award-winning filmmakers Stephen Asher and Jean Jordan that tells the story of McIver's promise to care for Renee when their mother passes. The film played in festivals around the country and was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Arts and Culture Programming and is now available on Amazon Prime. There's more. For 12 years, Beverly was a professor of studio practice at Arizona State University, and she's currently a professor of art history, and visual studies at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. For many years, particularly this last year, Beverly has been active working with People for the American Ways Artists for Democracy project, working alongside Carrie Mae Weems, Jeffrey Gibson, Jenny Holzer, and others, creating artwork and billboards to promote voter mobilization. And I hope you'll tell us about your sitting with Norman Lear, because I love that story. She's won numerous awards and honors over the years. Last month, the National Academy of Design inducted Beverly as part of the class of 2024. She is included in numerous public and private collections, including the Baltimore Museum of Art, the High Museum in Atlanta, Georgia, the North Carolina Museum of Art, the National Portrait Gallery, the Mint Museum, the Smithsonian, on and on. We are delighted to host our first exhibition of Beverly's work. I went to Beverly's studio in, I don't know, was it June of this year? And she had some paintings, but I was like, is there gonna be enough paintings? And suddenly the truck arrives at Barry Campbell, and there's like paintings galore. And it was a problem for us because there were so many good paintings. We had trouble deciding what we were going to hang in the show. And that's a really good problem because that doesn't happen all the time. Anyway, so this show is called Entangled. This is the most recent body of work. I think you're going to see how Beverly's work has evolved over the years. And I'd love to hear about sort of where you started and how you got to here. And I know that's a big question. So without further ado, Beverly McIver. We can turn off the lights. Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can see. So.
It got
Ethan, we need wine. I forgot about the wine. There's one up there.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Martha, for letting me have the show here. I'm going to give you just a brief history of my life so that this work makes sense. I was raised by, as Christine said, my mother, a single parent that raised the 3 girls. And that's me over there. I'm still that same shy kid. And my middle sister Ronnie, and my cousin Sharon, which lived with us. And then this is my sister Renee, who's mentally disabled. So, as Christine said, my mother was a domestic worker. And this is my sister Renee. This is an old picture. She's like 64 now, and still alive. But anyway, when I was growing up, I made these paintings of Renee because I felt like I was in the margin as a Black artist, like she's in the margin for disability, for epilepsy, for people who are mentally disabled. And so it started off where I was like, okay, we're in the margin together, me and Renee. And then I started having these dreams. This was when I, right out of graduate school, when I first started painting. I started having these dreams of Renee sort of dispersing and, being mean to me. So I made these paintings, and you can see the smudge over to the left. That's me trying to, that's me trying to emerge from behind Renee's shadow, because she did take up a lot of attention in the family. And so there I am, and this is as far as I get with that. And I don't know if you can see it, but scratched in this painting, it says, help me. So I was trying to identify who I was outside of being Renee's sister. And this is the last piece I did in that series, 20-some years ago. Can You Hear My Silent Scream, which is also scratched in. So I went from there, and when I was in high school, I joined a clown club. Who doesn't want to be a clown?
This is my question to you. I don't know about a clown club. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in one, but were there other clubs, or was this the only option? It's so interesting to me. Were you interested in drama or performing arts, or?
No, actually I was just really shy, and my sister Ronnie, my middle sister, joined the clown club, and because she was getting more attention than I was, and so she did it, so I did it. And in fact, she used to draw before I just basically was copying what she did because my mother was praising her. And so when Ronnie, my sister, joined the clown club, it was an all-white school that we had been bused to. And so you had to be a white clown, right? And so I put this makeup on. These are my grandma's pajamas, which I put pillows around. And the newspaper is like, you see me in line. This is when I tried out for Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Which, funny enough, at the time, they did not have Black people as clowns. And the girls they had as clowns were boys dressed. So I had no idea. There I was standing there being Black and female, thinking that this was a good choice.
A pioneer. A pioneer, indeed.
They said the average age of people joining the circus was like 27, and I was 25, so it was perfect, right? Wrong. So anyway, I went to a performance at Duke University, and I saw these people dressed in blackface, and I was like, oh, no way, I can be a Black clown, for real? So I went to a Halloween store the next day and got this black wig, this afro wig, and this black makeup, and I dressed up, and I was like, oh, this feels really authentic, right? And I started doing things that were stereotypical of what what society thought black people do, like eat watermelon, right? And that's still true today. I mean, when I go to a family reunion and we have watermelon, nobody will let me take their picture eating watermelon because they know they'll end up in a pain, right? So,
But you're saying this performance you saw, just to clarify for me, were white people with black face? Like it really was a blackface performance?
yeah,
When was this?
like in 1992.
Okay,
Yeah.
not that long ago. But it's weird you gloss over that.
Right.
But, yeah, you just glossed over that, but as a white person, I want to ask you, it was white people. What were you doing at that performance? Was it just an entertainment thing, or did you go for a particular reason?
I went because my undergraduate teacher, Elizabeth, had a free ticket. And she said, I think you should go to this performance. So I said, okay. And I went, and that's when the magic happened. And I was like, oh my God, I can get black clown. So I did the black clown. This is Mammy, How I Love You, after my mother, who raised white children. So, and I had white dolls growing up, because there weren't any black dolls. And so I played with, that's Molly, the white doll. I named her Molly. So then, when I did a residency at the Radcliffe Institute of Advanced Studies in Harlem. At Harvard. And I met these filmmakers, Gene Jordan and Steve Asher. And they said, we want to make a film about you. And I was like, whatever, you can't. So we want to follow you around. And I was like, okay. I mean, it sounded, you know how you hear other artists say, I want to make a film about you and fake home film, nobody will see it. Wrong. Did this film. This is the cover of the film. It's called Raising Renee. And it's about a promise that I made to my mother that after her death, that I would take care of Renee and provide for her. So they made this film. They followed us for 6 years.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, because it's a time-based film. So they followed us for 6 years, and then HBO bought the film. And just so you know, I didn't get any money from that.
I was going to ask you, because I was going to say, I actually streamed it for free again this morning, and then I was like, should I pay for it on Amazon? Because does Beverly get money from this?
No. It's like being the subject of my painting. I don't pay the subjects. And I don't give them a cut if it sells. It's not. So, anyway, so this is the cover, and now I'm going to show you just a 1.5 minute clip of Raising Renee.
Tell me about Renee.
She makes pot holders. Renee was born mentally disabled. She's the mindset of a third grader.
Leave the pain, Lord.
Appreciate your prayers, but it's fine if you can't come over. She couldn't imagine she was not going to be here.
Our home would have been broken if that Negro had stayed. Excuse me for saying Negro so much. That's my usual vernacular.
I grew up in the projects in Greensboro, North Carolina. When I was 17, the Klan showed up with guns and killed 5 people right in front of our house. Everybody knew that I had made this promise. So everybody was asking, what are you going to do about Renee? Damn, I gotta get that macaroni and cheese cooked before I go to work tomorrow or she won't have any lunch. My God, my life as an artist has gone down the tubes. Kind of like me and Renee. Like, Renee said she wanted to get a boyfriend.
He has the master plan. If you worry about something, stop it. Thank you, Lord. I like it.
Well, now, I haven't seen that in a while.
It's worth a watch. I recommend it. It really, to me, the film captures the spirit of your paintings. Like, they did a wonderful job because it's happy and it's sad, you laugh, you cry, it's serious, you understand your dilemma of having to take care of your sister, but also trying to paint at the same time and having this career. So,
A lot of balls to juggle. So I'm gonna skip to my father, who I found out when I was 17 years old. This is all in the film, so it's not like I'm
there's no big
confessing.
reveal today?
There's no reveal.
No, it's like that.
I
This is
can't be blackmailed because everybody, it's in the paintings and in anything that's written about me. So my father was 95, but I didn't know him when I was growing up. I met him when I was 17, and my mom simply said, "Hey, that guy standing at the door is your father." And so he's not on my birth certificate. My mother was married, and so the man she was married to, who also was not around, is on my birth certificate. And I met my father, who was a taxi cab driver in North Carolina for many years. And after my mother died in 2004, I decided that, it benefits me if I get to know my father. Because I had some issues, about black men, and, they just abandon you, all the things that he had done to me. And I was like, you need to work that out. And, figure out there's some beautiful black men somewhere. Anyway, there's my father again. So I painted him, and he actually came to live with me when I was the last 6 months of his life. He had fallen in his house, 95. And when they fall at that age, they don't recover from it. So I took care of him at my house the last 6 months of his life, which is when I got to know him and actually fell in love with him, because I was getting to know him where he was, and had no real expectations of anything from him, which is how you should get to know people.
I'm sure he fell in love with you too. It must have been pretty beautiful.
It was. I have a whole series of paintings about that. So, okay, and then I have a friend, Michael Keegan, who's in the back of this photograph. I told him that I love Norman Lear and that I had watched his shows, Good Times, All in the Family, It's Jefferson's growing up. And I said, I want to meet him. I would love to paint him. And he said, are you serious? Would you really like to paint him? And I was like, yes. So this was during COVID. So I flew out to LA and I had to have a shot that proved that I had just had the shot and that I was tested negative for COVID, like 24 hours before I met with Norman. So I did that, I went to his house. Norman had just gotten out of the hospital. He was like 99 at this time. Anyway, I hit it off with him, and I really liked him. And I made this painting of him that's now part of the National Portrait Gallery. They've already put it in their collection. And then I made this fun painting because I just enjoyed sitting there talking to him. He was just so full of wisdom and a great guy. So he said, yeah, I want you. I said, Norman, it's not going to be this ain't no glamour. You 99, you going to look 97. Right? So he was like, yeah. I said, I'm painting your soul. This is not a vanity portrait. So I made the painting. He said, well, I want you to paint my soul. And that's how I got involved with People for the American Way, because Norman Lear was a co-founder of People with Barbara Jordan. And so 4 years ago, he asked if I would participate in this campaign that they were calling Enough of Trump. And so I painted my cousin, that's Lonnie, in that t-shirt I bought him, and put Enough of Trump. And the People for made them into billboards all across the swing states. So this was in Wisconsin, and my cousin was so proud. He was like, "Look, I'm famous. I'm not that black." I was like, "Dude, ain't no black people in Wisconsin that even see it. Are you kidding?" So, but then I made this painting Enough. This is my friend Kim. This is her son, which also. They put them all over, this, the swing states. They ain't swinging no more. And they turned out to be really red in this. So that's how and so this year, I participated again with People for, there's a painting that's right around the corner in the office. It's a Dear God painting about please don't let Trump win. Our democracy is at stake, blah, blah, blah. So,
And that's your friend Kim,
that's my friend Kim.
who is a gorgeous woman, and that is very kind of her to, that's a bad day.
She's like, I hate that painting. I was like, what?
I don't blame her, but you should paint a beautiful painting of her as well. If you have not, you should paint her soul. Also, that's not just her soul there.
Yeah, so that's it. That brings me up to
this show. So I guess, in the book, the Full Circle catalog, there's a great interview that you did, and Kim asked you the question, and I find this is the same question that I have, which is, we end up talking about your life, and then I have to pull myself to talk about your subjects, and I ask you what the subjects are, and then we talk about the paint. So I know there's some artists here, and I'm interested too. I studied art history, so now I understand your life. Can you talk to me about some of the influences art historically, and people too? I get the people.
Yeah. Well, again, Faith just passed away earlier this year, and she really did not get her due until very late in her life. I think she was 95. 90? Can't remember when she passed away. And so I had no role models that were black artists, definitely not black women artists at the time that I was in school. So I looked at people like Richard Diebenkorn, and John Dufay, and Cy Twombly. I know that work looks nothing like my work, but it's the paint quality.
And I want to say, early Diebenkorn because it's portraits, or is it just the paint, or is it early the brush?
It's all of it. I mean, that he can make a still life look so beautiful that I would want to steal it off the wall and go to jail as long as they let me take it with me.
This is being recorded.
Okay.
Let's go get one later. Let's have a margarita. I love Richard Mayhew's work. So
Yes.
Will you talk about, there's a quote that you mentioned in the book about Mayhew and how he inspired you. And he's a landscape painter, so will you tell us that story?
I went to Penn State because Richard Mayhew was there as a teacher. And I wanted to work with him because I loved it. He was such a colorist. And I went there, the first year I went there and met Richard Mayhew. And I was having a difficult time at Penn State with my all-white committee, all-white male committee members, because Richard couldn't be on my committee because he retired. After that first year, he retired. And so I was getting frustrated because, my committee was saying, don't pay black people. Black people can't afford them, and white people ain't gonna buy them black people to hang on their wall. Okay, so Rick comes in my studio, And he hands me this little pastel drawing of a black woman. And he said, "Do you like this?" And I said, "Oh God, yeah, I love it." And he said, "You can have it, and you can paint black people." So that was really the start of, his influence, and Faith Ringgold telling me, when I said, "I don't know if I can make it. I don't want to be poor. Been there, done that." And she said to me, "I'm a black woman artist, and I'm famous." And so I took both of those people to heart and said, "I can do this."
Oh, I love that. We need people like that in our life. I will say, you paint a pretty mean still life, just by the way. You paint a really beautiful still life.
Yeah, well, that's how I started painting in undergraduate.
Oh, was that?
Was I painted still lifes. I had Elizabeth was my teacher and a real colorist, like working from a primary palette. What that means is 2 reds, 2 blues, 2 yellows, and white. So I don't use black at all in my paintings. And I mix all the colors. So, and that's how I was taught. I did a lot of Joseph Albers.
Over and
Color
over and
theory
over.
stuff, which they don't even teach today in colleges, unfortunately. So that's where that sense of color.
I see it, and I feel like that's another thing people don't talk about, but when all the artists come in here, they're like, "She's a great colorist." And you don't hear people talking about that because everyone's so obsessed with who, what, all that. But you're an incredible painter and an incredible colorist. And I keep saying every day in here, I keep talking about your paintings, that the brushwork is like Velasquez. And I studied 17th century Spanish art. So for me, the idea when you step away, you see this whole portrait and you see the colors and the mark making, but go up close to these paintings because the word that comes to me is luscious. Luscious. The paint is luscious and I love it. And I think that's what really got me. I think we had talked about, you were like, "Why do you and Martha want to show these paintings?" I think you said to us. And our first reaction was, they're really good paintings. Like we knew talking about your life and clown face, that was going to be hard for us, but we knew we could talk about painting. So I can talk about Velasquez. So I love learning more about you and how to talk about these paintings. And then let's get to the subject of you, because you say you're shy.
Yeah.
And then you are shy, and then here I'm staring at you in every painting. Why self-portrait? It's so, you're exposing yourself. Why?
Taking one for the team. It's hard to find people to pose for me, and I'm there with me all the time, and I can talk about with me in my own life, and suffering from depression. I can do those things, or feeling entangled. I can, I simply, with that painting, I simply wrapped some blue tubing around my head. And then I couldn't see, because I'm trying to take a selfie. So I was like, shit, I can't see. So I just did this, just sort of moved it around the camera, and then looked at it and said, okay,
I love it.
that worked, oh my.
And this continues the theme with ropes. And I just love all of the different meanings, so you can take it how you want to take it, and look at these paintings how you want to. You can be confronted by them or not. Amazing, but I love the chord, because I do feel like we all feel that sort of strangulation. And I guess maybe people don't want to sit for you, because if you're getting one shot at having your portrait painted, I don't necessarily wrapped in that. Or on a bad day, I want my hair done and I want to, be happy, Christine Berry. So I get it. So it's good that, thank you for letting us see you in all these different phases, because that's ultimately, I think, what is universal about these paintings and why we're attracted to them.
Well, I have a contract with all my good friends that if you die, go into the hospital or hurt, fall down, whatever, I need to come and take some pictures of you because I'm going to make paintings. So
dinner and I have a nut allergy, so she keeps saying, "Don't worry, I will stab you with the EpiPen, but I gotta get a picture of you first." And the one last thing I want to ask, and then we'll open it up, is I keep looking at all these, your father's shirt, all the patterns. That's another thing. Is that just is that a challenge to you as an artist, or what is that?
Yes, I hate it. I hate painting pattern, but I recognize, much like another Philip Pearlstein was a friend of mine, and he really painted all kinds of pattern with patience and love. And so I know what it can do if it shows up in a painting, and I wanted to do that because so many things are repetitive.
Yeah.
Life.
The nets in that other room, like, to me, that is such a huge challenge, and also just the netting itself, just being smothered by the net.
Yeah, that was horrible.
That must
And
be.
I said, I had Duke. I get research funds from Duke, and I had them buy me that white tub. You don't see the whole tub, but I'm sitting in it, and then I put that netting over myself. And a friend of mine actually took those photographs.
Yeah.
It was all about.
I love that series. Everybody check that one out in here, because that really is, I think, the inspiration to this show. But we had to pay tribute to Renee in the big quad painting. It's so incredible. And where is Renee now? Is she?
Renee is living in Greensboro, North Carolina, with my middle sister, Ronnie. And she just moved there. Last year, I moved Renee into assisted living. And because she's Medicaid and Medicare, but I don't know if any of you have seen those assisted living places that Medicare and Medicaid pay for. I mean, I wouldn't put maybe an enemy in there. Yeah. But I just didn't do that. I couldn't put my sister in there. So I paid out of pocket for her to be at a really nice assisted living. She was the only black person. And I was like, where do the middle, upper class black people go when they go to homes? I mean, like, where they at?
I mean, I don't think many people can afford those places, really.
It was really outrageous. And Renee hated it. And she lost 60 pounds, and she stopped making pot holders. I mean, it basically killed her. So those paintings that are on this back wall I would go see Renee 3 times a week, and each time she would be like sitting there like life had left her body, and that she was just a shell. And she would cry and beg me to take her home. So it was really challenging because I didn't know what to do. I mean, I couldn't, when I moved to New York back in 2004, and I worked out a deal with Arizona State that I would spend half my time and half the year in New York and the other half teaching at Arizona State. Well, my mother died, so then I had Renee, and then I looked for a 2-bedroom in New York. Yeah, right. So you know how that went. And so I had to move back to North Carolina. So that was the first time Renee basically sort of interrupted my career. And so this time, I was like,
Yes, sometimes you gotta look out for you. And she's with her sister, so she's okay.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna open this up for questions. Maybe Nico, do you mind turning the lights on? Phyllis Hollis has a question right here.
So I'm curious,
Can I give you a microphone?
when you're painting subjects, you paint their soul. How much time do you need to spend with them?
It depends. I usually try not to paint anybody unless I can look at them straight. Like this guy, Craig, I said, "Oh my God, you have such a great face. I'm gonna paint you." And I usually don't do that unless somehow I see myself in them. And that's how or they possess something that I want to have for, obtain for myself. So it depends. I mean, Norman Lear went really quickly. Like, 2 nights, he was done. And sometimes my studio is big enough that I have several walls, and so I hop around from painting to painting. Let something dry over here, move over there, the backgrounds are like 3 or 4 layers of color. So a lot of time I definitely have to let that dry before I can put another background down. Yeah.
My name is Arlington Withers, and I enjoy your work. Interestingly enough, I did independent studying with Philip Pearlstein at Brooklyn College.
Oh, you
He was
did?
really a fantastic, beautiful mentor in helping me to find a voice. But one time he made mention that people look for meanings within work, and in one painting he had a weather vane, and he was saying it had no symbolism. A weather vane is just a weather vane that he happens to have. But when I'm looking though at your mark making within these works, I am feeling the pain, the pathos, the brokenness that still comes out of your mark making. Is this intentional as a device to, show forth all of what you've been going through in each one of your works?
I think it's probably subconscious more than anything. When I start to paint, when I'm painting myself or a subject, the painting actually talks to me. So it's a real dialogue of, sometimes the biggest thing is, oh, this canvas isn't large enough, which I hate because I feel cheap about brushes and painting and paint surfaces. And if it's big, it costs a lot of money and I don't want to mess it up. So when my subject says you need to work on a bigger canvas, I consciously say, shoot. But I go and follow it because I know, I rely so heavily on my intuition in life and in painting that it's never steered me wrong. So it just happens. How I paint, the application of the paint, it just happens.
Every artist, especially radical artists like you, need to deal with rejection. And I was wondering, although this might be a whole article for you, what sort of a journey that was for you, dealing with rejection. I'm a painter and a sculptor, and long, long ago, I had to have a kind of an internal formula for how to deal with the rejection of my work. And I certainly saw every close friend of mine who was a painter and a sculptor having to embrace that journey in some way.
Oh, I thought you were saying I was being rejected by black men. That's I was like, I don't know, I'm working on it. I'm doing the best I can. I've always had an audience for my work. It's narrower than most audiences. But I've had some really, really fabulous support from like the people who own 21C Museum, who own, 12 of my paintings. And they've been buying them from when they were $500 and continue. So there has been support. And you know what? This is my motto about artwork. My business is to paint it, to do it, to hear it, and to put it out there. And once it leaves my studio, it's none of my business what happens to it. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Beverly.